I'm just going to go over the first few steps on the tutorial on how to design a realistic takeout coffee icon by Tony Thomas. Now the idea here is that you do have some vector tools that you can use in Photoshop, but we'll find out right away that it's not like Illustrator. So let's go ahead and launch Photoshop. And I believe if you scroll down, it's going to show you a final preview of what the cup's going to look like. Now this is an icon. This is something that would be really small. It would go on like an app or on the side of a page. It's not going to be a full-size image, but it still requires a lot of detail and shading to make it look realistic. In your version, you can have any kind of design overprinted, and your cup can be any color that you want. But first, we need to set up the document. So let's take a look. That's pretty straightforward. The thing that I wanted you to notice is that he is using pixels, not inches. If you do 512 inches, your document's going to be huge, and it's going to really slow the thing down. And because we are doing this for a web icon, not an image, we're going to keep it at the 72, which is pretty standard for web images. So I go to Photoshop, I do File, New. You'll notice that my window looks a lot like his, except for the Advanced tab. You can click that up and down. But I'm going to go ahead and enter 512 pixels. Make sure it says pixels, not inches. 512 pixels and 72. My color mode is RGB. We'll go ahead and call it coffee cup, or whatever you need to call it to remember it. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And that's going to open up. Should be a perfect square if you did it right. Alright, now the next step, he says he wants you to set your foreground color. And this code that he gives you is pretty synonymous with a 6-digit code that you can put into your color picker, and it will give you his exact. It doesn't matter if you're in China, England, New York. If you punch in that 6-digit number, you will get that exact color. At this point, I'm going to use the same color he uses, but if you want to use a different color, that's fine too. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and the way you get to your color picker is right here where it's your foreground color. Just double click that, and you notice that your color picker opens up, and I'm going to punch in and think 6E3B14, and there we go. And as soon as I hit OK, you'll notice that my foreground color has been changed to the color that he wants. Now what we're going to do is switch over to the shape tool. The shape tool is located right here. This whole set, pen tool, type tool, you have your path select, direct select, and your shape tool should all be familiar, because this section of the Photoshop toolbar is all vector tools. It's based off the same stuff we used in Illustrator. So when we go to the shape tool, rectangle is the one we're going to use. But before we do that, they want us to pull out some guides. Guides are these little blue lines that don't necessarily reproduce, but they're just there to kind of help you make things. You'll notice that some of you will have a ruler and some of you don't. The shortcut for your rulers is Command R. Notice they appeared, Command R. Command R brings up your rulers. And the way to make a guide is not to click like next to it or underneath it, but right on top of the ruler, you click and you can drag out a horizontal guide. Okay? All the horizontal guides, notice there's not one on the bottom, come from the top here. Okay? And then the vertical guides, the ones that go straight up and down, come out of the ruler from this side. Notice there's not anything on the right side to pull from, they all come from the left. So kind of what they want is for us to get this pattern. Now for me, because I've done this before, I can know that this is going to define kind of the width of my cup. So at 2 inches and at 2.5 I'm putting some guides, and then at about 5 and 5.5 I'm putting my other guides. Now for the horizontals, I want the height of my cup to probably fall at around 1.5 inches, but then a 1/4 inch on top and a 1/4 inch below that I'm going to put blue line guides. And you'll notice that there's 3 guides here. These guides kind of seem monotonous, but they are rather important. And the bottom set for my cup I'm going to put at let's say 6 inches. So then same thing as the top at 5 3/4 and 6 1/4. Then I have those guides. Another way to do those guides, if you kind of were confused by what I did, is remember you can always just take this image and bring it over and it should be roughly the same size. And if you look at your layers, I've got the picture that I took from the tutorial there, and I can actually use that picture to lay out my guides kind of right on top. And here I'm basically tracing his guides with mine, just it's blue on blue, so don't forget which ones you've done and which ones you haven't done. That's a less mathematically precise way to do it, but you know what? Whatever works. I don't want the guides to stymie you guys, so I just copied the picture over, and I'm putting the guides over the top. Just make sure that you don't forget any, because once again, the ones you're laying on top look the same. So I could go back to my layers and I could trash this. I'm gonna put that one back there. So that's how you lay out all your guides. And what the guides are gonna do is allow us to keep our cup pretty accurate, because we're gonna be using kind of the equivalent of Photoshop's Pathfinder, and we're gonna need those guides. So next thing, with my color selected, I'm gonna use the rectangle tool. And notice it's not the top guide here, but it's the second one. And I'm gonna drag a square. Notice I left one horizontal guide underneath and one horizontal guide up top that were empty. So it's the middle one to the middle one, okay? Now this is not a selection, this is technically a vector object, even though Photoshop's not a vector thing. And in the next one, we're gonna use the direct select tool, which Photoshop now has. The shortcut is A, but I'm just gonna go over here to the direct select tool, and I'm gonna double click that point, and I'm going to bring it in. Notice it matches up with my guides quite nicely, and it gives me kind of that turned in shape of the cup. Now notice that Photoshop actually has its own Pathfinder. So we have, once again, instead of the rectangle, I'm going to use the ellipse tool, which is basically a circle. And notice right here at top, I've got the shape layers. I'm using the oval tool, and right here I've got basically the Pathfinder. Create new shape. We have the add to shape area, which is just like unite. We have the subtract from shape area, which is like minus front. We have the intersect and the exclude. Those are all from the Pathfinder in Illustrator. But watch this. We're gonna make an oval, and luckily I have these guides. So I'm gonna say subtract from shape area. It's kind of like the minus front. You'll notice there's a minus sign on my little crosshair there. And from the top guide that we left alone, I'm going to drag to the bottom right of the square. What that does is it makes sure that my circle fits the top of the cup perfectly. And when I let go, instead of creating a shape, it actually deletes it from the top of the cup. Now moving on, we're going to do the opposite. Now I want to add an oval to the bottom of the cup. So this time I need to switch this over to add to shape area. So here we go, back to Photoshop. Remember, it remembers the last thing, so we're at subtract from shape area. We're going to switch it to add to shape area. And down here, I'm going to go using those guides again, and it makes the bottom of the cup. So that's as far as I want to go for today. Let's go ahead and look at our layers, and there's our shape, and there's our cup. Okay?